Warning: this video covers topics of violence, abuse, drugs, sexual abuse, infidelity, and depicts gruesome material. If any of this may be triggering or upsetting to you, please click away now for the safety of your mental health and well-being. If you are not triggered by any of these, still proceed with caution. Thank you. Hello everyone, and welcome to a video that I've actually been planning for a short while now. This is going to be my review on Dark Deception, covering its story, its gameplay, what it does right and wrong, and what I think of it overall. Let me preface by saying that while I do enjoy the game, I do have some issues with its developers, Glowstick Entertainment. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Glowstick is a small team of developers, which means that not everything is completely covered or perfectly polished in the game, although it's still recommended that to have a good team, you make sure that many boxes are ticked when it comes to game development, checking every angle of design and coding, thorough playtesting, thinking several things over about what could or would happen, etc. I have not coded a game myself, so I can't personally say I know entirely what goes on, but I imagine I have enough of an understanding that a product is still yours to maintain and polish with thorough dedication and commitment. That, and there's enough evidence in this game to show that there's many missed oversights that should have been noticed far earlier, if at all. At the time of speaking this very sentence, there is news that the chapters have been patched, but the patches haven't been released yet. I'll get a bit more on that in a bit. I don't harbor or encourage any ill will or hatred towards Glowstick Entertainment, as based on what I've recently learned, they have taken to cleaning up any messes previously left behind. Anything said in this video is not out of malice or spite, but purely out of what I have learned, heard, and seen, especially when it comes to reviewing the footage that I have recorded for this video. There is potential for a misunderstanding, which is why it's important to highlight that personal opinion does not mean objective truth or fact. This video will cover the things that make the game work, and the things that could, or have, put a serious detriment in its reputation and overall quality. Disclaimer right off the bat, this is just my personal opinion on particular matters, and I am in no way trying to slander or defame Dark Deception or Glowstick Entertainment. After all, it isn't slander if it's true. My experience will be told as I remember it. Oh, and just a quick update that will likely make this video obsolete in the future, because I never imagined this bit of information would come to light, and it's important to note that what I'm going to say is not yet confirmed fact, but a very likely outcome. Due to a recent tweet from Vince stating that, before Chapter 5 drops, something fun is coming for those who own Chapters 1 through 4, there is potentially going to be an update for Chapters 1 through 4, possibly the Enhanced Plus update, which I don't know many details about, aside from it potentially updating, fixing, patching, and balancing certain levels, cinematics, and areas. Initially, it was believed these patches and fixes would be released in 2025 along with Chapter 5, but it seems that the release date for the new overhaul could be closer than we thought. Though for all we know, the update could still be coming in 2025 before Chapter 5, since Vince didn't outright state this fun thing was coming in 2024 particularly. Fingers crossed, though I'm not going to hold my breath entirely just yet. The fun bit leaves it vague, but given that it involves all 4 currently available chapters, I'm very certain that it's the long-awaited bundle of patches and fixes for bugs and glitches that plagued the game after the Chapter 4 and the Dark Deception Enhanced Update release. One detail that I unfortunately discovered that I really do not look forward to is that they're going to be changing the clown gremlins during the Goliath clown boss fight to clown spiders, the same ones from Dark Deception Monsters and Mortals, but significantly smaller. Someone's been taking lessons from Pennywise, it seems. There's actual interesting tidbits that make this game worth the suffering it sometimes causes, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna add fluff and soften my blows. There are issues that this game does sometimes give me. Nope, we'll get to that later. Now, with that out of the way, let's get right into the good stuff. Dark Deception has always been an incredibly intriguing game to me. Every level brings about something different to the table that consistently keeps up with the atmosphere, the tension, the high adrenaline life-at-stake game of murderous Pac-Man, the anticipation of wondering what could possibly be next after clearing one level, and most favorably to me, being able to upgrade the abilities you get throughout the game. Released as a demo in 2014, this menacing hunt for Souls of the Damned sparked inspiration for a full in-progress remake of the game 3 years later in 2017. Hell, there's talk of a sequel to be in the works after the 5th and final chapter of Dark Deception comes out. But only time, effort, and resources will tell if that'll come true. To get you up to speed, allow me to explain the story. You play as Doug Hauser, a man who has done terrible things and met with a terrible fate. But you're not met with a scary, mysterious, mask-selling salesman whose sinister presence in Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion will scar me for life. Instead, you're greeted by a mysterious woman named Helen Bierce, once an actress or movie star, who offers you a chance at redemption if you help her out with an itty-bitty task, going through 10 horrific nightmares to obtain pieces of a mysterious ring called the Riddle of Heaven, said to contain the demonic power of your opposing adversary, a well-dressed, shrewd, and savvy demon named Malik. If you can get all these pieces, Bierce promises to grant you your desires. It's not like you can turn down this offer. Going back to wherever you came from would only mean certain death. Going through each nightmare is no walk in the park either. There's traps, tricky twists and turns, and most iconic of all, freaky monsters hunting you down, looking to tear you to pieces. Of course, collecting all the soul shards in each nightmare will unlock the barrier blocking each securely guarded piece of the ring. Then, escaping back to the portal you entered through secures you a win. Of course, it's not always easy. Malik will give chase most of the time, since for the most part, these nightmares are the only places he really has power on his own. With each ring piece, you get a new ability. So far we have Speed Boost, Teleport, to jump gaps or distances, Telepathy to tell where enemies are in the map, Primal Fear to briefly stun enemies, Telekinesis to pull in soul shards from large distances, and Vanish to turn yourself invisible, though it doesn't work against particular bosses, enemies, or Malik. There's quite a bit of lore and background context to understand about Dark Deception first, to understand why we're here and who Bierce truly is. So buckle up, folks. This is gonna get rather bizarre. In Dark Deception, you play as someone named Doug Hauser, as stated, our fabled... Do we even call him an anti-hero at this point? We don't know his full intentions, but what we do know is that in life, Doug was absolutely not a fantastic person. Brought into the Dark Dimension and greeted by Helen Bierce, her opening cutscene's dialogue tells us that we aren't some innocent person brought here by misfortune or spite.
Don't look so confused. I know everything you've got hidden in that brain of yours. I know all the terrible things you've done. So many good intentions laid to waste. I can see the regret eating away at your soul.
This gives us an indication that Doug is someone who seeks to have something he so badly desires, but in life he'd made terrible decisions and overall was an awful person. But just what had Doug done to be labeled as such a person? Well, if you pay close attention throughout the game's levels, there's actually lore explaining the meaning behind almost everything. Doug's past experiences and intentions, messages shining a light on the situations he or those who suffered by his hand had faced, and most damningly of all, what Doug had possibly done. Throughout the levels, there are hidden rooms that have secret notes and extras, and in 3 particular cases, messages left by Doug himself, or perhaps they're just memories. After all, why would they be in these levels before we even showed up? Well, some believe that each of these levels could represent an aspect of Doug's past and the awful things he'd done or caused. In Stranger Sewers, Crazy Carnival, and Torment Therapy, there's 3 collections of notes written seemingly by Doug, and each one is just as twisted and unnerving as the last. The notes read as follows.
The pills aren't helping her at all. Her behavior keeps getting more extreme and irrational. It's a never-ending nightmare. I can hope for the best, but I know that she'll probably never be normal. She's going to be a mental mess, just like her mother. It feels like my world is going dark. A man can only take so much. I really don't care what people think of me. Those 2 don't know how to be happy, and they're sucking the joy out of my life. Whatever her mother and I had is dead. I need to break free while I still can. I've got plenty of money and a great career. I can start over. I can do it right this time. I still need to do something about them, though. No way I'm letting her take me for half. She'll use that defective kid to bleed money out of me forever. I want to be free of them, and I want to forget they exist as soon as possible. Thankfully, she's not very bright. There might be a way. I thought I was so smart, so untouchable, but I was an easy target for them. It was my own fault, a result of my own ego and desire, just a fool playing the big shot. They loved what they could take from me, but they never loved me. Not like you both did. I see them more often now, more clearly and more often than before. They dominate my dreams now in a way that never happened previously. Sometimes, when I am out doing my walk, I feel them watching me, and I almost convince myself that I see them, their faces, hidden in the crowd of people. For a moment, I find myself wishing so much for it to be true. I doubt they'd be as happy to see me, though. I spent another Friday night with the group. It went about as well as it usually does. They are good people, all of them, but I don't think they will ever be able to help me. Faith and the power of the Holy Spirit have a profound impact on some, but for me, they are just words that ring hollow. I've taken the pills to forget. I've prayed to forget. I've gone to group meetings and therapy. I've done countless amounts of charity and community work, but it never feels like enough. I still feel so empty. Maybe I'm just wasting my time, or maybe I'm slowly going mad. She had another violent episode last night. We were arguing about Tammy's behavior problems at school again. I was in the middle of prepping defense for the trial of my life with a key client. I really had no time for another round of parenting ideas from her, but she just wouldn't let it go. She knows how to press all of my buttons, and I'm pretty sure that she enjoys doing it. I lost it. I pushed her out of my office and I gave her a piece of my mind. She just stood there for a minute, and then that was the moment I saw it again. The rage in her eyes. She left the room and came back with a pair of scissors. That crazy bitch tried to stab me. I was able to wrestle the scissors from her, then packed up my work and left. She was screaming out the door at me, telling me to run off to my secretaries and not come back or something like that. I could care less. Just more proof that all that therapy and medication isn't helping her. I don't think they have a pill strong enough for her level of psycho. I keep finding her empty prescription bottles hidden around the bedroom. She tells me it's her normal prescription pill, but I know she's lying. Somehow she's getting more medication than she should have. Now I'm finding new meds with names so long I don't even know what they are. No surprise, I suppose. She thinks she can solve all of her problems with therapy and pills. It's pathetic. She was sheltered her entire life by her kooky family and never learned how to deal with her issues. Now she's got me paying for everything, and when things get too hard, she just runs home to her parents in Pittsburgh. Not that I mind that or anything. It's the perfect time to go out and meet up with some of my friends. It just kills me. Of all the women in the world, why did I pick her? Just a sucker for a pretty face, I guess. Now she's got me in her hooks. Financially speaking, it's cheaper to keep her. If it's not money, why does she stay? It just annoys me that she's so dependent on those pills. She's going to embarrass me publicly with her addiction at some point, which could hurt my partner's status at the firm. She mindlessly shoves those pills into her mouth like candy. Honestly, I think you could put anything in those capsules and she wouldn't even notice. She'd still take them.
With each note, you start to get more and more of an idea as to what kind of person Doug is. But there's more damning evidence as to who he is. And it all begins with a particular cutscene in Chapter 4. After an attempted escape from the 7th level, Mascot Mayhem, Doug is captured, beaten down by the Joy Joy gang, and Malik hooks into his mind, dragging him into his deepest memories. And it's here that we see the truth behind this man's past.
A family home. How charming. Who's the cowering little girl? Your daughter. How interesting. Not the daughter you wanted, though. A defect. Damaged. The same as her mother. I am getting sick of her public meltdowns. Why am I always being called out of work to deal with her, huh? From now on, you deal with her.
Deal with her? When do you ever do that? She's your daughter, you jerk. You don't spend any time with her. She's autistic and needs attention from a loving father. You don't even give her the bare minimum.
We both know she got it from you. You're the bipolar mess, and you passed it on to our kid. Are you happy? If I'd have known how messed up you were, I'd have never married you. Joke's on me, I guess.
Here we go again. Yep, that's all you ever say. Yeah, I know what you think of me. Sorry to ruin your life. All you really need is your money and your
What is wrong with the two of you? Why can't you just be normal?
You pretend we don't even exist. Even if you hate me now, Tammy needs you, and all you care about is your stupid work. Tammy could drop dead, and you wouldn't even notice. What kind of man are you?
All I know is, you two are sucking the joy out of my life. Sick of it. I don't need this garbage every single day. Yeah, I know. You don't want to hear it. You just want to hear that nothing is wrong with you, and it's all my fault, right? They really killed the joy in your life, didn't they? That must have been a terrible burden for you.
When are you going to deal with your wife?
Look, I said I'd take care of it. She's an idiot. I will get her out of the picture one way or the other. Just trust me and be patient, okay? Don't do anything stupid.
Your daughter is going to hate me though, right? That's going to be really awkward. Does she have to live with us?
Tammy is not the problem. Yeah, she's a messed up kid, but she won't get in the way. See, she's at that age where she doesn't like her mother all that much either. She'll side with me.
I hope you're right. I'm getting tired of waiting for you to keep your word. Remember, you promised me.
Oh yeah? Well, how's that new car treating you? Just like I promised, right? So, I'll meet you at 8 tonight. Elise thinks I'm going out of town for a conference for 3 days.
Okay, but don't expect any monkey business in some hotel afterwards. You owe me a nice night out.
Ah, now we're getting warmer. Doug Hauser. How pathetic. So this is what you really look like. Quite the contrast. Your soul looks so much younger. Is that how you see yourself on the inside? Must be the narcissism. Nice blood ritual. Did you look that up online? Quite a desperate act. What motivated you to do it? Was it the cancer? Or something else? Something more painful, perhaps? Tell me, Doug. What's down there? The water, Doug. A car. Is that them? Is that your family? How tragic. But why would you feel regret for that? You hated them, didn't you? Accidents do happen. You can't blame yourself for that. Unless... was it really an accident? Did you have something to do with it, Doug? What did you do? It's time to wake up, Tammy. Your dear father has come all this way to see you. Ah, there she is. Ooh, I can see why you were so disappointed in her, Doug. Not much to look at. Below average in almost every way. Must have been embarrassing to call such a disappointing girl your daughter. After all, a man as great and accomplished as yourself deserves better. No? Am I wrong? What do you think, Tammy? Go give your daddy a big hug. I think he wants to tell you how sorry he is.
After this shocking revelation, it's clear that Doug had an absolutely awful history. And combined with the notes we see throughout the levels, of which we haven't seen all of as the script is being written, you might wonder, why are we rooting for this guy again? As it would turn out, we see Doug's inner thoughts as Malik torments him with these haunting memories. Doug didn't want Tammy dead. At most, he wanted her to be on his side since he was going to have her be part of the family between himself, his side piece girlfriend, and Tammy. He wasn't a completely heartless monster. Just mostly. His plan was to keep Tammy, but likely leave Elise Hauser behind. A scummy move, but he didn't have bad intentions for Tammy. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so arrogant and confident that she'd take his side. Though we never will know how he would have treated her. It's clear his girlfriend was concerned of what Tammy would think of Doug seeing someone else. And it's also worth noting that, despite the notes saying that he wanted to forget all about Tammy, it's possible he would have changed his mind if he thought he could use Tammy somehow. Curiously, we do also get this little gem dropped during the flashback.
Okay, but don't expect any monkey business in some hotel afterwards. You owe me a nice night out.
What a charming little hotel. Bring back any memories?
It's furthermore speculated that the levels tie in to Doug in some way. Most of them, with a particular exception, as I've recently learned. But that'll be discussed in a bit. There's actually a hidden note in each level written by someone named E. It's suggested that these are written by Elise Hauser. The notes read as follows. Unfortunately, I was not able to replicate Elise's voice, so I'm just gonna read this in my normal voice. I don't remember how I came to this place, but I will not play her game. I'll find my own way out. I had to leave the tablet behind, but she thinks I'm gone now. Frightening creatures roam this old hotel. There's something familiar about it all. It seems that I can sense things for some reason. It's as if this world wants to share its dark story with me. I don't want to hear it, but I can't shut it out. I can only record my thoughts on paper to help me clear my mind. The monkeys. I can sense their desires. Their souls whisper to me. The ones in the kitchen frighten me the most. The mutterings are random and no longer human, but they are the most violent of wishes. I've learned that the mortal souls of murderers are imprisoned inside each one. In life, they abandoned their humanity. They gave in to their urge to kill. They chose to become monsters. Now they continue on this place as monstrous murder monkeys. Fierce's portals are not the only way to move between realms. In the hotel, I found a relic imbued with the demon's power. It's whispered its location to me. I'm not sure why it was there, but as long as I have it, I won't need the ring piece. I could never get past the creatures who guard them anyway. Who would be suicidal enough to even try? The relic is not powerful, but it allows me to walk through the shadows like he does. However, it only takes me to places where he has been. I try to keep my distance from him when he appears. If he discovers me, my fate will be sealed. Now that his path has led me to some sort of school. At least, it looks like one. It's not like the hotel. It's much worse. I sense there is only one voice here, and it is terrifying. Her appearance is that of a child, but that is no child. It didn't take me long to discover that I could see her. She purposely let me look deeper. I wish that I had not, because what I saw was unbearable. Sometimes, something so horrible happens to a child that their soul becomes corrupted by rage and sadness. When that happens, an evil child spirit is born from that suffering. This one's name is Agatha. The pain and suffering of children is a pain that she is forever tied to. She knew what my reaction would be. She is feeding on it. She is toying with me. I can hear her coming. I escaped from Agatha, but not unscathed. She was able to wound my left shoulder before I escaped. I almost passed out from the pain. I can still hear her shrill laughter. Thank goodness I had this relic or I'd already be dead. Mysteriously, my wound healed itself after I left her realm. The rules of this place continue to confuse me. It's nothing like the real world, as it's always changing. Almost as if it is controlled by someone. Maybe it is that demon. Its path has led me to an opulent manor now. I was so entranced by its luxurious beauty that I almost didn't notice them moving. This is no ordinary manor. The sheer amount of gold here reminds me of the story of King Midas. Many have been seduced and led to their deaths by it. The cursed souls of men corrupted by greed are drawn to this place. In life, they valued only wealth. Now they are encased in the very gold that they so loved, burning in it for all eternity. A fitting end for them. All that remains is a ruthless golden golem. Each one is driven to kill anyone that might enter and steal their lord's precious treasures. I have decided to refer to them as Gold Watchers. I managed to escape from the dollhouse. I'm not sure how much more of this I can take. The longer I follow the demon's path, the more nightmarish it becomes. Even with this relic, I doubt that it will last much longer. I can only hope that a way out lies somewhere within these sewers. It is quiet here. Too quiet. Everything seems worthless and forgotten. The sewer is full of rotten filth. I've learned that what you see is not always the reality, though. There are unusually large duckies scattered about in every tunnel. I thought they were all hollow, but then I sensed something moving a short distance away. It seems none of the duckies are not as hollow as they appear. Instead, they contain the rotten souls of liars, flushed down to the sewers and left to decay. They are now creatures of deception, as they were in life. These dreadful duckies are trying to blend in and hide behind their false appearance, but my sense easily reveals them. There's something else lurking here, though. Something much bigger and far more dangerous. I can hear it. It knows I'm here. I've become aware that using the relic costs the user a terrible price. It slowly consumes their soul. I'm not imagining it. I can feel myself gradually getting weaker. I will try to avoid using it for as long as I can until I find a way out. But I'm starting to lose hope. Maybe there is no way out. Maybe this is hell. Everyone and everything here is a nightmare, so it makes sense. Was I a bad person? Did I do something unforgivable? What torments me more than the monsters is that I can't remember anything. Fierce seemed to know something previously. I saw it in her eyes. Now the relic has brought me to an evil circus. This is not going to go well. I don't like clowns. I can already sense that there are a lot of them here. I know their soul type. They are the wretched people that like to troll. They spent their lives antagonizing and provoking others with a twisted pride. The actions of small-minded cowards. Causing misery to others was just a source of amusement for them. Now they are cursed to exist as the little twisted little clown gremlins that they always were. One of many, and eternally part of the circus. As I feared, the circus and cathedral were just more dead ends. I had hoped to avoid making any more jumps, but there was no such luck. The additional jumps hit me harder than I was prepared for. The symptoms were excruciating and I still have not yet fully subsided. More and more, I'm aware that my time is running out. The demon's path led me to a rather large and ominous-looking hospital. When I arrived, I was prepared for the next ridiculous nightmare, but instead I found it full of women. Nurses, to be exact, and they were quite unusual as well. They wore medical bags over their heads while moving around on roller skates, which struck me as odd. I didn't care to look at what was under those bags, and I preferred to never find out. Like all the other monsters that I've encountered, their souls were bound in servitude to the demon whose footsteps I have been following. Even as I stood before them, the nurses didn't bother to attack me. They are demons that specifically prey on men and call themselves Reaper nurses. I could feel in each of them the soul of a woman with a deep and scarring hatred of men. They were all born from that hatred. The hospital lures the souls of men that hate and disrespect women, and offers them an eternity of torment by women that hate and disrespect men. How appropriate. They truly deserve each other. As I stood there in silence, one of them skated over and offered me a seat in the lounge. She even brought me a pot of tea after seating me. I refused to drink it, expecting that it was poisoned or drugged. They seemed amused by my paranoia and laughed. After whispering to one another for a few seconds, one of them turned to me and asked me if I'd like to join the Sisterhood of Healing and Mercy. They told me that my soul checked all their boxes and that a little initiation ritual was all that was required to join. I wasn't sure what they meant, but it didn't sound good. As they were all holding large, sharp syringes, I wondered if refusal would mean my immediate executions. I gripped my relic and prepared to jump as I declined their offer. They stood silently for a moment and then laughed more. They seemed unaffected by my response and told me to go ahead and make myself at home. I was allowed to explore the upper levels as much as I wanted, but not permitted to go near the restricted areas. As long as I did what they told me and didn't threaten their mission, I would remain safe. However, my curiosity was already piqued. Is there a way out in those restricted areas? I need to find out why they are off limits. The Reaper nurses did not take kindly to my snooping around the restricted areas. In the end, even with my abilities, there were too many of them. I did not find an exit or anything I could use to restore my memory. After the jump, I couldn't move. I was paralyzed with pain and could only stare at the ground, waiting for it to pass. As I opened my eyes, I saw that I was on top of something large and metallic. It was a giant medallion of some sort and had animals on it? A rabbit, a pig, and a chicken to be precise. Suddenly, I heard a voice yell out to me from above. The voice sounded friendly, but I could feel the malice behind it. I staggered to my feet and looked up. Before me was a massive castle facade. It was like something out of an amusement park. A large yellow rabbit was dancing on a platform above the drawbridge gate. It looked like some sort of twisted mascot. I could tell immediately that this one was different from the others. It was a killing machine. One built purely for violence and chaos. There was a soul of some sort inside the machine, but it was not human. I tried to run from the rabbit, but I didn't get far. I was stopped by another mascot, a pig. It attacked me and missed, obliterating the side of the castle wall in the process and leaving a large hole in a blind panic. I tried to use the relic to escape, but the rabbit grabbed me violently from behind and lifted me up by the throat, strangling me in the air while laughing maniacally. It took a loose brick to the face to startle it enough to allow me to break free. My landing was not a soft one. I landed sideways on the sharp rubble and barbed wire of the brick wall. Severely wounded, I barely escaped by rolling into the moat water below before the rabbit could grab me. The rabbit screamed profanities and threw bricks at me as I disappeared into the cold water of the moat. For some reason, it did not follow me into the water. As I sank deeper, the rabbit's voice disappeared entirely and it was silent for a while. In that moment, I felt myself drifting away and my remaining consciousness fading. I no longer even felt the need to breathe. This was how it would end. Then, suddenly, I heard another voice speak out from the depths. It was the demon. "Ah, there you are," it said. "Aw, so much pain, so much despair. Perhaps I can help you, mortal. I have an offer that might interest you. All you have to do is take your little toy and seek me out when you are ready." As I heard his words, my eyes opened a bit, and I saw a demonic red face glaring back at me from the depths. A crushing pain immediately filled my head, and twisted words began repeating in my mind. "Don't you have someone to kill?" they whispered over and over again. Terrified and ignoring my pain, I swam back to the surface in a panic. Conveniently, I discovered that the rabbit and pig were nowhere to be found. I clung to the castle wall and waited, wondering if the demon in the water would emerge to finish me off. I was careless, and it seemed that the demon had finally noticed my presence. However, nothing happened. Reflecting, I wondered what the demon has meant. I had no idea where to find him, nor would I be stupid enough to actually go. It would definitely be the end of me. Wounded as I was, I managed to drag myself up out of the moat. It's getting harder to find moments long enough to write these notes. I will continue to do it for as long as I have the strength. I doubt that the rabbit will be gone for long, and I need to jump in order to heal my wound. To any unfortunate souls that come to this place and find this message, leave quickly before it's too late. My arm is burning from the last jump, but my other wounds are fully healed. I can move reasonably well again. Whatever the demon did to my head has awoken some memories. I'm having glimpses of what I think is my past. Images with no immediate meaning flash in my head. A handsome man, some lively friends, walking along a beach, a child, and a bridge. I can't put them together yet, but I feel it's just a matter of time if I can stay alive. I'm in some sort of cavern system now. The darkness here is overwhelming. So many voices are speaking to me all at once. So many souls have perished here. I'm struggling to block out their screams. This place is some sort of feeding ground. No, that's not right. It's an execution site. A place where the demon makes his unwelcome guests disappear. It's full of twisted teddy bears and their mama bear. She's very powerful, and I can tell that she runs this place. The mama bear is born from the twisted love of abusive mothers. They sabotaged and destroyed the lives of their children. She has a massive collection of that soul type. I wonder if she can even be killed. For some reason, her presence pains me deeply, and I feel an immediate attraction to her when she gets close. I've caught myself a couple times walking in her direction, almost in a trance. The subconscious attraction frightens me more than the creatures I've encountered. I have to keep my distance. If my soul is drawn to her, then it raises some frightening questions. No, I refuse to think about that. I need to give my memories time to return. I will make sure that there's nothing of value here, and then I will move on. I'm not sure how far I'll be able to search. The cavern system is vast, and Mama Bear and her babies are everywhere. The demon is still searching for me as well. October 10th, 1981. We've been married for almost 2 years, but I've yet to meet Doug's mother. She wasn't at our wedding, and she never comes to visit. Not even for the birth of our daughter, Tammy. Recently, Doug finally landed a job at a famous law firm in Manhattan. He didn't even tell her about it. I don't think Doug would allow her to visit even if she tried. It makes me feel sad and angry that he won't talk to me about her. Does he not trust me? Is he keeping secrets from me? He won't even talk to about his mom around me, which is extremely strange. You'd barely even know he has a mother the way he avoids mentioning her. My first thought was that he had some buried mommy issues to deal with. That made me extremely curious, so I did a little digging. I was able to find some information about her from Doug's private medical records. Apparently she lives near a large horse farm in central Pennsylvania. I might go see her. Honestly, what kind of a man that doesn't introduce his wife to his own mother? What is he so afraid of? Maybe there's something about him that she knows that he doesn't want me to know? I lost control of my emotions a few times, and we've had a few big fights. He's been acting different since Tammy was born. I need to know. It's unclear what exactly the ties to monkey business are. Elementary evil isn't tied to Doug directly, at least that I know of. It's actually thought that this represents the agony of a young woman or child who was murdered. Or shall I say, sacrificed. Let's take a brief detour and discuss Helen Bierce. When you play the game itself, as in the story mode, it seems like she was just a typical movie star who made a deal with Malik to have her wishes come true. But there is a crucial piece of lore that ties into her own history, and it comes in the form of diary logs that you unlock upon S-ranking a level. So far, I've only unlocked 5 of them, but these 5 paint a picture that becomes much clearer of who Bierce really is.
Those idiots at RKO wouldn't even give me a screen test. Selznick looked me in the eye and said he already had a dozen girls like me. Wondered why I wanted to be a movie star when I had a rich husband to take care of me. I told him that was the whole point of marrying the fat pig in the first place. Edgar is having another one of his degenerate parties tonight. I caught him in the bedroom laying out his black robe and that ridiculous goat mask he got from the prop department. He and his friends like to pretend they're such devils, dressing up and spouting mumbo-jumbo out in the garden at midnight. Every so often they pay one of the call girls a little extra to be their sacrifice. I'd tell them all what fools they are, but half of them work for the studios, and the rest are some of the most powerful men in the city. If Edgar can't make me a star, maybe one of them will. There was someone new at the party last night. A dark, handsome man with a strange accent. I took him for a European. Maybe one of Lugosi's Hungarian friends. He didn't seem all that interested in the festivities, didn't drink or even take much notice of the girls. When the robes came out and the warlocks headed out into the garden, he seemed more amused than anything else. Somehow, we ended up out on the veranda, sharing a smoke and listening to the drunken chants echo across the hills. I finally learned his name. Victor. At some point in the conversation, I asked him what he thought about black magic. I suppose I was trying to shock him, or maybe it was just the djinn talking. He said that people took such things seriously where he came from. There were all sorts of stories about those who sold their soul in exchange for wealth, power, and fame. I laughed in his face, told him I didn't believe a word. He said it didn't matter what I believed, only what I wanted, and what I was willing to do in order to get it. I had my first screen test today. MGM called, out of the blue, and asked me to come read for a part opposite James Cagney. I barely remember how it went. I think I stumbled over most of my lines, but no one cared. They loved me. Every single person on that lot hung on my every word. It all happened just as Victor said it would. I've learnt so much over the last few months. I didn't want to believe at first, but Victor has shown me time and again. At every moment of every day, we are surrounded by hidden forces beyond our darkest dreams. They watch, and they listen, and if we call to them with the proper words at the proper times, they will respond. And if we give them the gifts they crave, they offer gifts in return. Victor has shown me the ritual. I know all the words by heart. All we need is a sacrifice. None of Edgar's tramps will do. But the maid has a daughter that might do nicely. The feel of the knife in my hand, the words of the ritual echoing across the ballroom, the crash of thunder and the screams of the sacrifice. It's been a month, but every detail is still etched in my mind, as though it happened only last night. I called, and Malak answered. He listened to my plea and tried to bargain with me as Victor said he would. There I was, knife in hand, dickering with a demon, while a girl's blood soaked into my slippers. Finally we came to an arrangement. 7 years and a day. After that, my soul was forfeit. I told him he was welcome to it. The phone hasn't stopped ringing since. Every studio wants me. I've entertained movie stars, politicians, and industrialists. Edgar doesn't know what to make of it, and I don't much care. I've got what I want. I don't need him anymore. Victor has disappeared. The day after the ritual, he emptied out his apartment and left. No one knows where he's gone. Selznick wants me in his next picture, says he'll give me anything. I told him I won't get out of bed for less than $5 million, and if he wants me on set, he'll get Bogart to star with me. I don't care if he's under contract with MGM or not. The little toad turned such a lovely shade of purple. He'll give me what I want, though. They always do. Edgar finally died last night. It took 6 long months, and I don't know how much arsenic. Rat poison would have been quicker, but the police might have noticed. I'm almost tempted to let them arrest me anyway, just to see what would happen. I'd have judge and jury eating out of my hand before the day was out. The reporters would have a field day. Finally, a breakthrough in the search. There are rumors of a ring called the Riddle of Heaven, somewhere in China or possibly Tibet. It could be the answer I've been looking for. All I have to do is find it. Edgar's considerable fortune should help.
This surprised me when I listened to it, especially the 5th one. She'd gone too far in aiming for what she wanted, sacrificing a young girl for a ritual to attain fame and riches. Fierce having the mentality to go through with this is extremely telling, that she would stop at nothing for even the most corruptive status in the world. This also explains why Agatha hated Bierce in particular while being less hostile towards Doug. I originally thought that Agatha was the representation of Tammy's emotional anguish and agony after her death. Deadly Decadence is a more vague representation, but I believe it ties into Doug's wealth with his desire to start a new life, living in luxury. The Gold Watchers are literal backstabbers, as they attack you when you're not looking. And much like these backstabbing foes, Doug was also a backstabber in his relationship with Elise when seeing another woman and planning on abandoning her. Stranger Sewers is a more peculiar case. The note mentioned that the Dread Duckies are the twisted souls of deceptive liars, and the wiki describes them as essentially liars and manipulators, much like Doug was. Crazy Carnival could be a representation of the blurring and hallucinogenic effects of lacing medication or drugs with something they're not meant to have, as hinted with what Doug could have done with Elise's medications. This could explain why the circus and funhouse have vibrant and disorienting colors. The clown gremlins, as noted, represent the souls of those who love to torment others and see the supposed sickening enjoyment and entertainment of it. In torment therapy, the Reaper nurses have the souls of women who have unrelenting animosity towards men, possibly in reference to the hatred that Doug's victims of sexual abuse would have, or perhaps what Elise felt after everything Doug had done. In Mascot Mayhem, it's unclear what the Joy Joy gang represents, though coincidentally during the cutscene, following our failed escape from Joy Joy Land, Doug tells Elise that she and Tammy are, quote, sucking the joy out of his life. Though it's possible that Lucky, Hangry, and Penny represent particular aspects. Hangry, for one, has a gluttonous personality, though gluttony can also come in the form of intense desire of possessiveness. Penny was always seeking attention and love, perhaps referring to a vain love upon being with another girl, in Doug's case. Lucky, driven by insanity and a desire to always be the victor, could represent Doug's desire for happiness and always getting what he wanted. Ultimately, whatever one of these led to the tragic events that followed, guilt would consume Doug Hauser. Mama Bear represents the many combined souls of abusive mothers with twisted love. Doug's mother once bought him a stuffed teddy when she herself couldn't be around much to show him real love. This stuck with him throughout his life, perhaps becoming the representation of what Mama Bear is. And not only that, we actually have a note from Doug's mother herself. February 11th, 1960. Happy birthday, my little Dougie. 5 years old. You're getting so big. Do you know how much I love you? I'm so sorry that I can't be there to spend time with you today. Things are hard right now, so Mommy has to work. Don't feel sad though. Today is your birthday, and Mommy left you a surprise. Look downstairs in the kitchen. I bought you a new friend. He'll keep you company whenever I'm not around. I'll see you when I get home, sweetheart. Always remember that I love you. Love you forever and ever, Mom. March 4th, 1963. Dougie is 8 now. I shouldn't hate him, but I can't help it. Every day he looks more and more like his father. He acts and sounds more and more like him too. He used to be sweet and cute. Now when I look at him, all I see is that miserable bastard's face. It makes me feel sick to my stomach that I'm raising him by myself while he's out there enjoying his life with some tramp somewhere. Life is never fair. The other day, he dropped one of the glasses in the kitchen. Such a simple thing, but it instantly filled me with an uncontrollable rage. I locked him in a closet as punishment, mainly so that I wouldn't beat him. He begged me to let him out and said that the dark scared him. The other mothers would be shocked to hear me say this, but I enjoyed hearing him beg. I left him in there for hours. He eventually stopped crying. Maybe I never had any maternal instincts to begin with. That thought doesn't bother me so much anymore, though. Now, all I can think every day is that I should have listened to my mother. When he was born, she told me to give him up, and I didn't listen. She told me not to marry his father, and I didn't listen to that either. I should have listened. I was such a foolish girl. There are so many things I could have done. So many dreams I might have fulfilled. Now I'm trapped, and time just keeps going by faster and faster. When I look at myself in the mirror, I can see my age starting to set in. I'm not as young as I once was, and raising him is wasting what little youth I have left. I spend every moment either working to provide for him or taking care of him. It never ends. It feels like I can't breathe. I also can't abandon him even if I wanted to. It's against the law after all. Not to mention that once word got around, I'd be a pariah in the community. They'd all judge and cast me out. Of course, nobody judged him for leaving. No, not him. He's a man. His buddies probably gave him high fives and cheap cigars to celebrate. Meanwhile, I'm stuck here with his brat. Being a single mother is hard. For now, all I can do is make him suffer every now and then. He can suffer as I have suffered. Yeah, really starts to make sense why Doug doesn't bring up his mother to anyone. It's not entirely yet clear what the remainder levels such as Holiday Horror, Prison Panic, Feared Fortress, or Wicked Ways could represent, as of course Chapter 5 is not out yet. With the lore that I've found so far, there's a lot of speculation about what the overall story could be, but from what's understood, here's what we've got so far. Doug Hauser was a man who was incredibly unfaithful to his family. He was verbally and mentally abusive, sought out women behind his wife's back, and generally just wasn't happy. He had another woman at his side, who was reluctant about Doug's plan to have Tammy join them. Doug had also sexually abused at least 5 women and turned himself into the police, but was later released on a 6-figure bail. After Elise attacked Doug with a pair of scissors after she finally snapped, having had enough of him, his response was to think that her supposed alleged insanity and consumption of medication wasn't going to be a good look for him. So he slipped something into her pills. Supposedly that resulted in Elise going for a drive. When she went for a drive, it resulted in Elise losing hand-eye coordination and became disoriented when they went for a drive and drove off a bridge. Elise and Tammy didn't make it. Doug didn't know Elise would have driven, and regretted what he did that caused Tammy to die. He lived a life of regret and guilt for years, and eventually he was faced with potential terminal cancer. Upon discovering a ritual he could perform to get another chance, the same ritual Bierce likely committed, or even did a ritual that led him into comatose, leading him to awaken in the dark dimension. Curiously enough, the blue orb that we encounter in Barely Buried, according to the voice files in the game, is listed to be Tammy, not Elise like most of us probably thought. She helps Doug escape the Trigger Teddies, which shows that either she doesn't know that Doug was the reason she wound up losing her life, or she did know, and she didn't fault Doug, or perhaps somehow knew he regretted his actions. No matter how you look at it, Tammy's soul being bright and pure shows her innocence and gentle spirit. Now that the backgrounds of Doug and Bierce have been covered, as well as the level's symbolism and tie-ins, what about Malik? Well, simply put, we don't know much about him other than that he's a demon that runs a soul-collecting business. His history with Bierce is that when it was time for her soul to be taken, she bound a piece of the Riddle of Heaven to her own soul to keep herself from being taken, and sealed herself in a protective pocket dimension. Malik's powers are the same ones we use throughout the levels, thanks to Piece of the Ring. Sorry about that. And with one of the pieces bound to Bierce's soul, it'll be extremely difficult for Malik to get it back. The minions we see throughout Torment Therapy, Mascot Mayhem, and Barely Buried appear to work for him, with previous nightmares potentially being their own isolated instances, but obey Malik rather than directly working for him. So, we've gotten familiar with the characters based on all that we know. So what about the levels themselves? I've got my fair share of ups and downs about these levels, especially so after the enhanced update released alongside Chapter 4. So let's talk about that. There are 13 planned levels for Dark Deception. As of this video, so far, we've got 8. So let's start from the beginning and summarize from there. The first level is Monkey Business, which takes place in a spooky, worn-down hotel. This is the most iconic level, as it was the first level that many were thrown into back in the 2014 demo of Dark Deception. What's interesting is one of the paintings, a soul shard, is actually a callback to the demo, since the soul shards had a very different look back then. After an unnerving introduction to our primary enemy, the Murder Monkeys, which was actually correctly labeled by Markiplier when he played the 2014 demo, we step into the elevator ourselves and are taken up to another floor. Once we step out, it's here that we get the full context of what it is we're doing.
See those floating bits of crystal? Those are soul shards. Fragments of human spirit scattered throughout the halls of this little maze. Each crystal is a remnant of one who has met their end here. gather them all, and the first ring piece will be yours. One more thing. You're not alone. There are monsters in here, and they're looking for you. Here, you'll need this. It can detect each shard's location. It was left by the last guest to disappoint me here. A very clever girl, just not a very fast runner. Enough instruction. Break those boards and let's get this party started.
Every single shard. It's the remnant of a human soul. Makes you wonder just how many people didn't make it. The tablet belonged to Elise Hauser, who managed to elude Bierce by faking her death. It's not clear how she managed to get away with this, but my theory is that upon playing dead, Bierce, who is usually able to see through the player's eyes, disconnected from seeing through Elise's eyes upon thinking she was no longer of use. The rest of the level, as with most levels, is pretty basic. You pick up soul shards, and upon collecting all of them, the ring piece becomes available. In the enhanced update, 2 chef monkeys were guarding the ring piece, which makes it a bit tougher to collect. Fun fact, there's a chance for a monkey to peek out of a door for a split second. It startled me a few times, but it's a nice little touch to show that you're not as alone as you might think. There's no actual monkey in the door, it's an animated image. I know this because when I was mapping out the levels using simple mod menu, I explored around all parts of the map. Upon collecting the ring piece, we make our escape with the sound of Malik greeting us. Every level after that, except for 2 occasions, he'd be chasing us as we flee the level. As a reminder, with every ring piece we get a new ability, and each time a level is completed, Doug obtains more levels that allow him to upgrade his abilities further. Between each level, an exchange between Malik and Bierce happens, but nothing much happens in most of these, aside from some occasional lore drops, one of which has the curious line, "Why not tell him what fate befell the last person who trusted you?" And Bierce just turns her back, not answering. I don't think he was talking about Elise, the previous owner of the tablet. I think he was talking about the young girl that Bierce sacrificed, and didn't know any better about what she was being led into. The next level is Elementary Evil, which takes place in an elementary school. In Dark Deception Monsters and Mortals, there's actually monstrous enemies based on the alphabet letters A through G. They're actually kind of menacing. But they're not in Dark Deception itself, thank God. The letter A sounds like a pianta, which makes it more funny than scary. Agatha herself is extremely unnerving. Little bit of info, she was actually adopted by Malik. I don't know how I didn't realize this sooner. Malik sure as hell isn't married to anyone. She looks like she belongs in Japanese ghost folklore, next to Teke Teke and Akamanto. Look both of those up if you're curious, but I'm warning you now, they're both really disturbing legends. I actually ran into a hilarious bug upon trying to map out Elementary Evil, and I'll just let this clip speak for itself.
Said Dibsy, not Disney, dipshit.
What the?
Well, it's been a while since
She is neutral. She is neutral.
This bug happened twice. The first time in the clip you just saw, the second time after you collect all the shards. So she was just there, A-posing, screeching at us about how we're a mean, bad person. It was honestly pretty fucking hilarious. There's not much noteworthy about Elementary Evil, except for one glaring problem that didn't need to be created. Upon getting the ring piece and making it back to the auditorium, we're greeted with one of the most unnecessary sections added to the game. The loosest form of a boss fight with Agatha, which consists of waiting around for her to finish teleporting, charging at you, and you have to use speed boost to last long enough to outrun her until she stops. I don't even want to consider this a boss fight, because there's no actual fight, you just have to survive until Bierce can open the doors up for you. The problem I have with this fight is that there's very little room to move around, and if you use speed boost on accident or it runs out too early, unless you have teleport and this level is a replay, you're shit out of luck. Not to mention, you can't stun her with Primal Fear. She can be stunned with it during the level, but not during the fight, I guess to make it balanced. Vanish doesn't hide you from her either. Funny thing, I actually managed to get her briefly stunned by picking up a stun orb before the fight began, and I was hoping it would keep it that way for the entire fight. but unfortunately no such luck. This fight just feels like an unnecessary addition. I mean, at least the chef monkeys and monkey business made sense, but you were already being chased by Agatha in the level itself as she teleports around and chases you upon spotting you. The same thing she does in her boss fight. It's not terrible, since you just have to not get too close to her and avoid being blown up by the portals she summons, but it drags out the level by forcing you to wait until she consistently attacks. The next level, Deadly Decadence, was by far the trickiest level to S-rank for those who didn't have telekinesis yet. You start out in a courtyard and make your way past a statue and a pair of gates, with an ominous message greeting you. Or ominous messages, I should say. We enter a hedge maze, and once the gates close behind us, it's not long before the enemies of this level reveal themselves.
Watch your step. It's hard to run with a gaping hole in your foot. In case you were wondering, yes, those footsteps are getting louder.
Gold Watchers. These guys are freaky. Like, abso-fucking-lutely freaky. There's 3 of them in the hedge maze, and let me just say that if you hated the functionality of SCP-173, Weeping Angels, or any enemy that moves when you're not looking at it, you'll hate these things. They not only move when they're not within your line of sight, or if you're not looking in their general direction, but you can hear their rapid moving footsteps approaching, their menacing laughter, and if they're close to you, well, they'll breathe down your neck or go psst when they're right behind you. It's creepy as hell, and honestly one of Glowstick's best and most intimidating monsters. I'll give them that. When your movement determines whether you live or die, every move you make is on the line, and it's extremely tense. So, I just want to take a moment to give props to Glowstick Entertainment because Deadly Decadence definitely stands even today as one of the better levels, considering how tense every single second of it is. In the hedge maze, there's spear traps every few feet to keep you on your toes, so while backing away from the Gold Watchers, getting impaled is even more of a threat. Of course, using Vanish and Primal Fear makes this easier, but you can't get cocky. Oh, and something I should mention, back up in release of Chapter 2, way back then, this level played out quite a bit differently, but in a much more disturbing and freaky way. The Gold Watchers used to have a sort of functionality where they would only move if you weren't looking directly at them. So, if there was layers and layers of hedges between you and the Gold Watcher, it would not stop moving until you were physically looking at it. So, that meant that anywhere you moved, you would be in danger until that thing rounded the corner and stopped when you looked at it. But thank God, they included a patch which allows you to stop them moving in their tracks if you even look in their general direction, no matter how far it is from you. So, I guess we can all be thankful that they didn't go with the they didn't go with the release version of this level. After getting through the hedge maze, you then enter the large mansion, and this is where things get significantly trickier. There's a labyrinth of hallways, spear traps, swinging axes, and of course, 6 to 7 Gold Watchers that all know your location, but you don't know where they are. Without telepathy, keeping track of these enemies would be an utter nightmare. There's also a very bizarre secret you can actually discover in this mansion.
They're using the ring's power to create living statues. What a waste. Those soul shards aren't going to gather themselves, you know. Keep looking.
The enhanced update added the Titan Watcher from Monsters and Mortals. You don't really fight it, you just bait it into lobbing an axe at a padlocked gate to bust it open. It's actually harder than it sounds. Moving on to the next level, Stranger Sewers. This level is honestly stressful, mostly due to one key element. Your movement is slowed in sewer water, which can make gaining velocity to make a getaway extremely difficult. This is also where telepathy comes in handy. Now, before the enhanced update, telepathy made it so that the enemies were outlined by very clear red lines. It gave clarity as to where enemies were, making keeping track of them easier. It also pointed out the direction they were facing. After the enhanced update, because apparently the original version of telepathy caused reduction in frame rate, they had to turn it into a red smoke, which I can understand if it was meant to balance the game, but it frankly still makes it harder to strategize if you can't tell which direction the enemy is facing or going if it's not very clear. Spending skill points at the ring altar on this ability isn't necessary, as it does its job just fine, but it's just a personal nitpick from me. You can't even decide if you get the enhanced look or not, it installs along with Chapter 4. Using telepathy tells the real Dread Duckies from the fake ones. Another method if you don't use telepathy is to memorize any difference in the fake duckie's positioning. Every fake duck faces a set direction. The Dread Duckies do not. Unlike most enemies, the Dread Duckies don't usually instantly actively hunt Doug. They wait in disguise, manipulating the player into not suspecting anything if they don't use telepathy. Hilariously enough, Glowstick actually had the nerve. Well, I shouldn't say the nerve. They actually had the idea to include two references to Stephen King's It. The first is when you die, and one of Bierce's quotes is, "Well, I guess your corpse will float too." The second is a secret that you can find, where on the wall, there's a little bit of graffiti that might remind you of a certain something. Zone 2 of Stranger Sewers isn't nearly as bad as Zone 1. Although it definitely can be a little tense. The next level is the one that I'd come to dislike the most, for personal reasons. Crazy Carnival. This level is not easy for many reasons. You start out in an entryway leading it to the carnival, with Bierce commenting on how she used to admire the circus in her day, leading up to one of the greatest lines in the game so far.
As a girl, the performers never failed to fill me with wonder. Watching them, I wanted to become a star, too. Now children just sit around and watch others play video games.
Following that, you enter into the carnival and are greeted by a yellow clown car, which then drives off. Around the carnival grounds, there's subtle references to merchandise that made it onto Glowstick Entertainment's shelves. Plushies of Dread Duckies, Golden Watchers, and Agatha plushies. There's even Dread Duckies and Murder Monkeys in caged wagons. Really makes you wonder if all these nightmares are truly connected in some way. You're led into a circus tent where a cutscene that I think is meant to imply an expectation of humiliation and suffering plays.
Go on, press it. You know you want to. Live a little. Oh my. You actually did it. I may have underestimated how little you consider the consequences of your actions.
Upon going in, you're greeted with a bizarre and unusual design for a level. And I don't mean the appearance. The collection of soul shards in this zone is agony, because even with telekinesis, grabbing all the shards is painfully slow. And while you're able to outpace the clown cars chasing you, they make the most irritating noise the entire time until they're stunned. Upon completing the first zone, you're sent to a small carousel room that spawns in a single clown gremlin, but Primal Fear should make it easy work. You're then allowed to enter into Zone 2, which, well, it's significantly better in Zone 1. In Zone 2, there's 25 clown gremlins, 1 roller coaster cart, and a lot of cannons. This zone can be stressful because the clown gremlins are so spread out that using Primal Fear on a small group of them leaves you in danger of the other groups. But overall, getting through this zone can be a nightmare if you don't have a strategy. At least there's no clown cars to gratingly rev their engines. Upon getting all the soul shards, the typical Mace with Malik ensues, followed by a twice as long survival round in the carousel. Finally, you're led out onto the carnival grounds, and the exit is right in front of us with nothing to slow us down. Just kidding, Malik shows up and he's not alone. This, right here, is one part of the game that will be changed when Enhanced Plus is released. What's the change? They're switching out clown gremlins for clown spiders. Yeah, no thanks. I think they also planned on doing that in Zone 2 itself. Again, no thanks. That's what incentivized me to S-rank this level before that update could ever be released. Fighting the Goliath clowns is part simple and difficult. The simple part is hitting their hands when they slam down. 2 hits on each clown takes them out. The difficult part is not dying in the process, because you have to wait until their hands slam down, and the important thing is to make sure you have distance from the clown gremlins before you can make a move. We're near the end of this summary with what we've got so far. But then, this is when the problems begin. Starting with Chapter 4's first level, Torment Therapy. I found out the hard way that having your abilities set to anything other than speed boost before getting into the level is a drastic mistake. You'll see why in a bit. Talking to the Reaper nurse at the front desk seems to have no problem. That is, until this particular bit.
Do you want to become one of our new patients? What am I saying? Of course you do. What a silly thing to ask.
This was what I encountered not long after Chapter 4's release. And it's still there today. Tells you that not a lot of patches for Chapter 4 were released beforehand, if any even were. We then have the next problem that a lot of people likely ran into. The AI pathing of the Reaper nurses in this section is only triggered once you get near them. The one that leads you into the hospital hallways doesn't automatically take the lead. You have to be near her for her to do so. So if you go through the hallway too early to go forward, being unable to sprint, you can't do anything and you have to slowly walk back. Now, nothing is too worth noting. Each of the rooms she takes you to is an attempt at killing you. First, you narrowly avoid being burned by a flamethrower set on a weight scale. Then you break out of a locked door in a room set to put the puncture and acupuncture. Then, well, this last one is ridiculous. It's a room with an MRI machine that's set to blow up, but there's a bug that doesn't let you pull your tablet up. So if you don't know what ability you had selected beforehand, this room will get you killed. And it's easily something that can put you at risk of losing an S-rank run.
Let's try this again. Wait right there, and this time don't move. It's your last chance. Same deal. Wait until the counter reaches 0. I'll be right outside.
You seem to really enjoy pain, don't you?
After escaping from the Reaper nurse and entering the elevator, you're taken to the floor that begins Zone 1. Now, Torment Therapy itself isn't that bad to handle. I've heard it described as being like monkey business, but much tougher. The main difference here is that the Reaper nurses can turn invisible, but by listening closely to their voices, looking for their skates sparking, or using telepathy, and looking for doors that open by themselves, you can tell where they are, and using that knowledge, it's relatively easy to get past Zone 1. There's giant defibrillator paddles that have frames that can still get you killed, even after the red beams dissipate. Trust me, I've ran into that issue a couple of times. Waiting half a second after the beams disappear is your best bet. Vanish is also a good method for avoiding being detected, but remember that the Reaper nurses are also invisible, meaning, as I said, telepathy is also your best bet for avoiding running into them. Upon completing the first zone, you end up in a parking lot where 2 more Reaper nurses drop down to ambush you, and the moment should not be spent in panic. I'd have Primal Fear ready before you enter the parking lot, even. Now, this next bit is broken in a few ways, and it's clear that this game wasn't properly playtested, or thoroughly playtested, before release. Upon entering an area with a balcony, you find the matron in the distance, the leader of the Reaper nurses. You're knocked out by a Reaper nurse who comes at you from behind, and you're placed into a cell that has a spiked ceiling. After breaking from your cell, there's a bug that you can run into that I really never would have known about had I not been in the wrong place at the wrong time. The spiked ceiling that you escape from? It can still kill you if you stand right next to the cell when you're outside of it.
That was close. Ooh, that tingles.
Up ahead is a section that's also bugged. There's Reaper nurses that stand guard atop overturned ambulances, and you're supposed to be able to see their field of vision on the tablet, but it's not visible. And given that Vanish is obtained after Torment Therapy, makes it so much worse. If you design a section to be a certain way, you have to make sure that it actually works before releasing it to the public. Zone 2 of Torment Therapy can actually be considered a lot easier once you have telekinesis on your side. There's a fuck ton of buzzsaws, fewer defibrillator paddles, and 2 floors, though telekinesis can be used to pull shards from the top and bottom floors at the same time if you max it out enough. Just mind the Reaper nurses, they're able to use the lifts just like you can. The top floors are a lot more cramped, which makes it easier to tell which direction the nurses are coming from so you can't be sideswiped. They come in from the front or the back, which means you can lure them to you, then stun them. The intersections are really easily avoided by using telekinesis to pull shards in from nearby, so avoid giving the nurses a chance to blindside you. There's really not much to it. Once you collect all the shards and get the ring piece, do not collect it while using speed boost or it'll lock up. All that's left is to make your way out. You climb up onto an ambulance and... coming up is one of the most broken parts of Torment Therapy. The boss fight. I'm not kidding when I say this boss is mostly, if not purely, RNG, or just being as careful as possible. The gist is that you have to damage the matron, who's chasing after you with buzzsaws, by stunning a Reaper nurse standing atop an ambulance, then hitting it with a syringe to knock her into the matron, literally getting her run over. Seems simple enough, right? Well, there's some slight problems with this boss. The most notable thing is that, thanks to the ability to cancel a teleport being removed, and the most notable frustrating bug not being fixed, there is a chance for your teleport marker to appear under an ambulance, and you can't back out of it. All you can do, if you can't move it elsewhere, is accept that you're going to get run over. There's instances where this doesn't happen, and I'm not sure if it's because of where I aim my teleport prompt, or because it just randomly happens. But this boss will make S-ranking the level extremely difficult if you're not lucky.
Reapers, after him!
That's it. Do that again. This is their idea of murder.
I'll crush you!
Now that deserves a face bomb.
Ew, wait. Oh, fuck. Yeah, there's also the bug that sometimes the needles don't even hit.
that
dare
again.
hit a woman? Stop it! Eat this!
No, not again!
You seem to really enjoy...
Hit the matron 4 times and the battle is over. But the real battle is not being killed by the bugginess in the process. Standing on the corner of an ambulance, hilariously, means a Reaper nurse is unable to kill you. So, that should buy you a couple extra seconds. But don't stand on the same ambulance too long, because as the battle shows you at the start, the matron is not hesitant to destroy any ambulance in her way. Getting past this, the matron falls over and Doug successfully gets away. The final bit is getting past a group of Reaper nurses and making your way to the portal. Luckily, this is one of the instances in which Malik isn't there to chase you. The next level that follows is Mascot Mayhem. This level is... well, it has its own ups and downs. You approach a castle-like building that's part of a place called Joy Land, and this is where Vanish is your best friend. Upon entering a hallway, you're stopped by a door closing, where you're introduced to the first 2 members of the Joy gang, Lucky the Rabbit and Penny the Chicken. With a cutscene having the same energy as a chipper kitty mascot greeting a 30-year-old, which I think is exactly what's happening here.
Hey there, buddy! I'm Lucky the Rabbit! Oh, and this is my good friend, Penny the Chicken.
Hi, I'm Penny the Chicken.
And we're both members of the Joy Gang. What about you? Are you ready to become one of the joyful? Oh, terrific! Seeing new visitors fills us up with so much joy. To celebrate, we're going to sing our Joy song.
The first zone is... it's nothing special if I'm being honest. It's like a cat and mouse game with Lucky and Penny, and some clone dropping bombs from above. Vanish, Primal Fear, and Telekinesis are your best friends here. The security cameras are definitely a threat though, because they'll alert either member to your location. Lucky is also capable of using Speed Boost to catch up with you. Upon completing Zone 1, on your way out, you're once again stopped by Lucky, who delivers an ominous warning, followed by a nasty surprise.
Do you know why they call me Lucky? Because I never lose. I hear you're pretty lucky too. Let's see how lucky you are.
Run! Well, aren't you popular? Remember when I said nobody liked you? Well, they can't get enough of you here. You might want to run inside now. That's pretty disturbing. The gate is securely locked.
This place is far more than it initially seems, and it's even more so when you head down to Zone 2. You're greeted by the 3rd member of the Joy gang, Hangry the Pig, and this guy is no pushover.
Hi, I'm Henry. I'm a pig. Oh, where's my joy? I haven't had a meal in forever. Come closer. Is that? Oh, are those ribs? You look delicious. You mind if I put a little barbecue sauce on you? I got my own recipe.
Hangry is capable of breaking through walls to catch up to you, though he can't do this forever. Because of, well, I would only assume his gluttony, eventually he does stop to try to take breaks to recover. Remember that he can break through walls to catch up to you, because it'll be relevant in a bit. Zone 2 is a lot more claustrophobic and cramped, making it far more dangerous to explore because with all these walls Hangry can burst through, he can come out from anywhere. There's actually 2 or 3 Hangry clones, and 1 clone of Lucky if I recall. Remember that Vanish does not make you immune to running into the enemies and dying, but it does reduce the likeliness of running into any of them in the first place. Once you complete Zone 2, you're meant to go to an electrical box to re-engage power to Zone 3. Unfortunately, the Joy gang aren't so fortunate to be cornering you.
Doesn't look like Beers has your back, huh, buddy?
Guys, why is he hitting that button? Guys? Uh-oh, that ain't good.
I'm not really feeling the joy yet. How about you?
Following that, you make your way to the elevator leading to Zone 3. Now, Mascot Mayhem is the first level that actually includes a third zone, and this is going to follow with the rest of the levels. You're taken to a place with a shocking discovery. This area is like a factory that assembles endless amounts of clones, as hinted at in Zone 1. Which really makes you wonder, how is it possible to tell the original Joy gang from the clones? In any case, you make your way to a large room with 4 levers, a crusher, and a piston. Upon going to open the metal door leading into Zone 3's actual layout, you're once again encountered by the Joy gang, and they are furious.
Buddy! You little freak! You ruined my mouth! You...
Squishy! Look what you did to my face! You made me ugly! Who's gonna take photos with me now?
Because this area is a lot smaller and there's not that many shards to pick up, it's not too hard to grab all the shards before you actually run into any of the mascots. And even then, if you run into them, they're generally easy to deal with. Restoring power to the area is a necessity for what comes next, provided Malik doesn't tear you to shreds first. Returning to the large room with the crusher, you manage to decommission the Joy gang better than you could ever decommission Chica. But things are just heating up.
Not so fast, mortal. Don't celebrate just yet. After all, that's not even their final form. Time for something new and improved.
Salvage mode activated. Project Joykill is now initiated. Constructing. Joykill unit completed. Have a joy day.
I'm back!
Look at me! You're in big trouble now, Squishy!
Oh! I can eat way more ribs with this bite!
He's angry? Why does everything gotta be about food?
Sorry!
This is Joykill. Well, that's what he's supposedly called, but he's never listed by name in-game. This boss is utterly ridiculous. Not in how you fight it, but in the fact that with how much reach it has and how far it can jump, you're 75% going to die at least once during this fight, even at your best. What you have to do is activate all 4 levers to activate the piston to trick Joykill into coming over and being pushed off. That's all. The challenge is struggling with all 4 levers, because if your back is turned, it's only a matter of seconds before you're stomped flat, punched flat, or disintegrated by a laser beam or laser shot. Joykill can be stunned, though Vanish doesn't work on him. Ultimately, being diagonal from Joykill is your best bet, as he can't jump from one corner to the other. Now, I should let you know now, I do not have footage of Beyond Joykill here, because it was frustrating to fight. And when I fought this guy once, there was a bug that kept Joykill from moving or doing anything, making this boss impossible to kill unless I used up one of my lives. Once you've dealt with the menacing amalgamation, a self-destruct is declared and a 5-minute timer begins ticking down. You rush out to get the ring piece, but Joykill, having not melted in the lava, and trust me, everyone speculates how this is possible, let's just say he's made of titanium, which can't melt. That's not actually how they explain it, but it does make the most sense. Taking the ring piece activates a 2-minute lockdown, and on top of that, you have to survive against Joykill, which isn't nearly as bad as it sounds. You at least have cover from his ranged attacks. 2 minutes feels like an eternity, but believe me, it's more manageable than the initial fight. We've covered how this escape attempt goes, so we're gonna move on. Upon waking up, you're greeted by Malik, who wastes no time dropping a bombshell on us about his role in all of this.
A century ago, Bierce offered her soul to me. She wanted to be a movie star, a trite request, but I agreed nonetheless. I just required a tribute from her first, a small offering. I gave Bierce what she wanted, but when I came to collect, she decided to get cute. She thought she could get out of her contract by using that accursed ring. However, I didn't become an elite evil by letting my guard down. Her little ambush failed. I shattered the ring and took the pieces, but it wasn't enough. One of the pieces formed a bond with Bierce's soul. She used that to seal herself into that annoying little pocket dimension. As if that cage could keep me out forever. In this place, having your power and ring stolen by mortals is not a good look. You both made me appear weak and vulnerable. That's bad for business.
This level is hell for anyone trying to S-rank it, for reasons that will soon become very apparent. You're captured by Malik, who's brought you here to be executed by his finest minion, Mama Bear, his personal executioner. You're taken in with the ring pieces confiscated and carried in by Trigger Teddies, easily one of the most frustrating enemies in the game, for reasons, again, that will soon become very clear. You're freed from potential demise by a mysterious orb, and as mentioned earlier, inspection of the game's files reveals that this is the soul of Tammy, Doug Hauser's deceased daughter. We're led up the stairs and into the attic, where one of the most infamously difficult parts of Barely Buried stands strong. There is one Trigger Teddy that walks around while the others are asleep. The only problem is that this one Teddy stumbles around aimlessly near the corner that you have to round to get to the next part of the attic. This part, right here, absolutely has screwed over many people's S-rank runs, because these little shits are absolutely frustrating to deal with. Why, you might ask? Well, for one, in this section, you can't sprint near any sleeping Trigger Teddies, lest they wake up and, I'm not kidding when I say this, they sprint at you twice as fast as their speed boost, even if it's maxed out. Not that you have speed boost at the moment anyway. You're forced to quietly walk past them, meaning any Trigger Teddies that are awake will catch up to you unless you make them lose sight of you, in which they'll immediately stop sprinting after you. Now, I should clarify that this Trigger Teddy that's awake does not immediately outrun you. However, it doesn't make it any easier to deal with. This part has always bothered me so much, because some might say they're supposed to be awake, but here's the thing. The ring piece in the attic gives you the Vanish ability, which could have come in handy here, but no, it's more like a punch to the face. The rest of the level is far more manageable than this small little frustrating section. Once you manage to obtain the ring piece, and Malik rats you out, Vanish becomes available to you. You're required to make your way back down, nabbing 18 soul shards while trying not to get blown up by these little ticking bombs. Overall, it's a cakewalk once you grab the shards and head down into the cave. You enter the build-up to Zone 2, and after a short while of unnerving trekking through curves and turns, once you step into a tunnel facing rightward, Mama Bear busts through a wall, and she is out for the hunt.
He's in the tunnels. Why the rush? Please, stay for dinner.
No! Stop him! You can't run forever.
Fortunately, you manage to escape her and her babies for now with a small cave collapse. Off to your left is Zone 2, and this is where you have a chance at getting telekinesis back. Getting it from the Trigger Teddy can be a bit tricky, as you have to not only track it down, but also make sure you don't get blown up in the process. Let me stop here for a moment and explain that Trigger Teddies are stupid volatile when it comes to attacking. Primal Fear causes them to explode. And this is problematic because if a Trigger Teddy steps into view around a corner out of nowhere just as you use it, well, you're fucked. Mama Bear will mad sprint for you if she gets too close, and basically mess up your vision. Vanish will help you avoid her at least. The tunnels around here are twisty, turny, and any corner can have a Trigger Teddy or Mama nearby. There's bear traps that can snap you up and kill you on the spot, but Primal Fear can set them off. It's pretty straightforward after that. Once you grab all the shards, you just head back to where you came in and enter an area in the middle path. As you enter an area with toxic waste, you're greeted with one hell of a mini boss fight.
You don't like bear hugs. Watching you die.
The fight with Mama isn't too complicated, but it can be tricky if you don't know what you're doing. She'll raise up her arm, trying to smash it into you. The best strategy, from what I know, is to just circle it very closely, waiting until a rock falls down, and when Mama's face, that not even Mama herself could love, appears, give her a cosmetic surgery courtesy of a lump of igneous. Hit her 3 times and the boss fight ends. Malik offers a deal better than Bierce's, for you to have things just the way you want, and when your time comes, you'd give him your soul. Tempting, but there's no audible approval or rejection. Now comes the final zone. Zone 3 is a bit more tense than Zone 2. Since this world is part of Malik's dimension, you can see an ominous background that looks like it belongs in Malik's realm. Mama Bear is in her frenzy mode, and the Trigger Teddies unmask themselves. Literally. There's also 3 ring pieces, 2 of which are fake. This plays out similarly to Zone 2 with some differences. The cavern is more open and expanded, and the rugged terrain makes it easier for the Trigger Teddies to catch you off guard. Getting the ring piece requires you to defeat 2 Trigger Teddies holding 2 fake ring pieces. Curious thought I had about this. Chapter 5 is said to bring 2 new powers, so if you return to Barely Buried with these 2 new powers, would these other fake ring pieces be replaced with 2 new real ones? Collect the final soul shards and get the ring piece and head back to the zone's main area. Malik won't be chasing you since he has confidence in Mama to deal with you. Lastly, she has the final ring piece you need to get back and, well, I'll let this cutscene speak for itself.
Looking for this? You've caused enough trouble. I can't let you go any further. You've wrecked my happy home and destroyed many of my precious babies. You will undo everything. Like Bierce, you are an abomination. I can never let you return to her. This place will be your grave.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking disturbing. Mega Mama has a predictable pattern, making her easy to deal with. She'll start off by trying to slam her hands into you 3 times, before leaping up and pounding her belly like it's a drum. What you have to do is turn invisible and wait until a Trigger Teddy is close to her, and use Primal Fear to knock her back into the toxic waste pool. This process repeats with her having added attacks each time, like stretching her arms and trying to, well, whatever you call this, as well as trying to hook you with her spiky ball form. But if you can prevail, Mega Mama will be no match and you'll obtain the final ring piece. But we're not out of the woods, so to speak, just yet.
I'll never let you go!
Upon entering a small tunnel, Mama Bear's mouth hand will chase after you, and 3 Trigger Teddies roam in the tunnel. Vanish, Primal Fear, and Speed Boost are your best friends here. After that, it's just a race to exit the cabin through the front door, and from there, you're home free once you rush forward. And once you escape, that's all there is at the time of this video. Now, I wanted to discuss these levels in gradual detail so that I could really smooth out the context of where the problems in some of these levels come forth. The Enhanced Plus update has been said to have plans of adding in RTX, adding visual fixes, hopefully fixing many bugs as well, and making changes that allow the game to be on the same level as Chapter 5 when it releases. Initially, this review was going to be just about the game's ups and downs, but piecing the lore together and figuring things out seemed to be a much more fun idea. This game absolutely isn't perfect, but it's still fun when you really get into it. This script was in the works, well, sitting here for over a week, but I managed to finally get it done. This wasn't like some big intense project. This was mostly to give perspective on those who have or haven't seen the gameplay of Dark Deception. Of course I'm going to play Chapter 5 when it comes out. It's a fated conclusion. Having some of the answers won't solve the entire mystery, but having it compiled into my own take in this video was like a fun idea that I could try and really make use of. I'd played this game's levels countless times, but it's about time I actually dove into it in a way I can express. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you for your support, whether this game has your interest or not. It's not as cheap and poorly made as it may seem, despite all the bugs, as its story and world building is pretty impressive. Maybe, just maybe, in the future, the Enhanced Plus update will make the complaints and criticisms of critical bugs a thing of the past. Until then, thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you all in the next video.